The XPS 13 versus MacBook Air series is made possible by Squarespace. Squarespace is the easiest way to create your very own website, blog, or online store. It features an intuitive interface, great looking templates, and incredible 24/7 customer support. Try it out at squarespace.com/mstech and use the offer code mstech at checkout to get 10% off. If you're in the market for a $1,000 laptop, two of your top contenders should be the Dell XPS 13 and the MacBook Air 13-inch. The purpose of this series is to put them head to head and see which one offers a better overall laptop experience for your $1,000. This is part 3, the final episode, concluding the series by giving you my choice and explaining why. The Dell XPS 13. That's my choice. I've actually already sold the MacBook Air after getting the shots needed for this video. And to explain my choice, I'm going to focus on user experience because in the end, that's what it all comes down to. If you want the hardware and specs and stuff, you can go check out the previous 2 episodes of this series, which will be linked below. So I'm going to be going over my specific user experience, which keep in mind also means it's going to be my own opinion, you may disagree, and I'm just going to go over my everyday tasks, but not every task. I'm only going to go over the tasks that are better on one specific laptop. And this isn't going to be a Windows versus OS X video, although that will take a part because some tasks will prefer specific operating systems. The first thing I want to talk about, I've actually mentioned in the previous episode, and that is opening the laptops. You have to do this every single time you want to use it unless you leave it open for some reason. And on the XPS 13, it takes 2 hands to open, while on the MacBook Air, you can do it with just 1. And a lot of you thought I was too harsh on the XPS 13 for this. The way I see it, it's really just about convenience. Without getting into situations where maybe a hand's dirty and you only have 1 hand available, it's just about I would rather have the option there to open it with 1 hand than to not have the option at all. And it may not bother you, but it did bother me, so I have to prefer the MacBook Air when opening it. Next is taking it to class, and actually more taking it anywhere. And I don't take it to class every day, but I do put it in my backpack sometimes and bring it to school, and I do prefer the XPS 13 when I do so, just because it is smaller and lighter. And yes, the MacBook Air is thinner, but when it comes to portability, I prefer a smaller footprint and smaller weight rather than just having it be thinner. Something I do every single day is check social media, and for this, I do prefer the MacBook Air, and the biggest reason here is the trackpad. Scrolling, like on Facebook or Twitter where you have a very long vertical feed, scrolling is a lot better on the MacBook Air, 2-finger scrolling. It responds instantly, and the motion is just overall more fluid and easier on your eyes. With the XPS 13, there is 2-finger scrolling, and it's not that bad, but there is a very small delay when you're using 2 fingers that it just doesn't respond instantly, and I went through a lot of settings and I could not find any setting that got rid of that delay completely, and it might be in there somewhere, but it was not easy enough to find because I did look and couldn't find it. So I do prefer the MacBook Air for checking social media just because it has much smoother 2-finger scrolling. I also do schoolwork pretty often on my laptop, and I do prefer the XPS 13 for this. 1, because window snapping to corners is just easier on Windows. You can kind of get it done on Mac, but it's just easier and naturally supported right away. On Windows, you just drag it to a corner. But more importantly, I prefer the keyboard on the XPS 13, and this is largely personal preference. I prefer the carbon fiber wrist rests on the XPS 13, even though the keyboard has a little more flex than the MacBook Air, but a lot of people will prefer the MacBook Air just because the keyboard is more rigid. When it comes to watching videos or Netflix or a movie or something, it's pretty straightforward. I prefer the XPS 13, 1, because it's 1080p, but also because it's the 16:9 aspect ratio. On the MacBook Air, it's a 16:10 aspect ratio, so if you have a 16:9 video, which most videos are, you're going to have black bars at the top and the bottom if you're in full screen. And I basically just prefer the XPS 13 because you can watch 1080p video, while on the MacBook Air, you can only get up to 1440x900. Now on to editing YouTube videos, something I do pretty often, not always on my laptop, but I do it often enough, and I prefer the XPS 13. First off, just because it's faster than the MacBook Air, so it can render quicker, it'll update quicker. Also because it has a higher resolution screen, so you can fit more on your screen and in that timeline, and it's just a little better. But also because of compatibility. I use Sony Vegas Pro 12 because I'm too lazy to switch to Premiere, and Vegas is only compatible with Windows, so I can't even use it on the MacBook Air, which kind of sucks, so that's that. Gaming is pretty similar to video editing. I prefer the XPS 13 because it's faster, so you can run them at higher settings or similar settings and a higher 1080p resolution, but also because of compatibility. As I'm sure all of you know, games are a lot more compatible on Windows than Mac OS X. You can run very few games actually from the Steam Marketplace on OS X, so if gaming is at all in your arsenal when you're buying a laptop, you should definitely go with a Windows-based machine like the XPS 13 over a Mac. So that wraps up my daily tasks that are better on either laptop. I probably missed a few, so if you can think of any, go ahead and drop them in the comments below, and if I have any experience to share, I will definitely do so. But it's not all about just specific tasks. There's also just general preferences when it comes to laptops that are important to take note of. I prefer to hold and carry the MacBook Air. It's absolutely all aluminum, which looks and feels fantastic, opposed to the Dell XPS 13, where only the top outer shell is aluminum. Also on the XPS 13, it just kind of looks professional and a little boring, to be honest, while the MacBook Air looks just elegant and beautiful. Also, when I talked about the keyboard earlier, I mentioned flexibility, and with the XPS 13, that just is the case. The XPS is generally more flexible than the MacBook Air. Here and there, you get a little give on the corner or whatnot, while on the MacBook Air, the entire thing is very rigid and very solid. So that's going to wrap up this video. After hearing my opinion, what is your opinion? Which laptop do you think looks like the better choice for $1,000? Which one would you buy if you were buying a laptop? Keep in mind, there is a new MacBook Air, at least rumored to come out, with a higher resolution screen and smaller bezels and stuff like that. And I will be taking a look and revisiting this subject when that MacBook Air comes out, so look forward to that. But other than that, thank you so much for watching this series. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this series and making it possible. Subscribe if you want to see more content, and as always, stay classy. Before I leave, I do want to talk about Squarespace again. Now, before Squarespace, my only website building experience was an old free website that I made in elementary school, and it looked awful. And when I tried out Squarespace for the first time, it blew my mind how much easier it is. The tools and templates they provide let absolutely anybody create a beautiful and incredibly functional website. It's only $8 a month to get your own website, and that comes with a responsive design that scales to look great on any device, a free included online store, and 24/7 customer support through live chat. You can also start building your own site now with a 14-day trial with no credit card required, but when you do make a purchase, use the offer code MSTech at checkout to get 10% off. And I just want to thank Squarespace for supporting the channel and making this awesome series possible, so thank you. Squarespace, build it beautiful.